In your job, you handle lots of health and beauty products. Some of these contain certain chemicals that could be hazardous to your health if they're spilled, inhaled, or swallowed. We want to make sure you're safe when you're working, and that's why we created this video. In the next few minutes, you'll learn some things to help you stay safe on the job and keep our workplace safe for coworkers and our customers. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, has set up a rule called the Hazard Communication Standard. This rule sets up specific requirements to help people who work with hazardous chemicals work safely. The Hazard Communication Standard has recently been revised as we now use the Globally Harmonized System of Classification and Labeling of Chemicals, or GHS. Every day, all of us come in contact with chemicals. Most chemicals are not hazardous, but some can catch fire, explode, burn our eyes, or make us sick. Lots of these kinds of chemicals are dangerous only under certain conditions, or if we don't use them as indicated in the manufacturer's instructions. If we know more about the chemicals we use, then we can handle them safely and protect ourselves and others. Let's look at some of the words and phrases used to talk about hazardous materials. OSHA has decided that there are about 2,500 chemicals that have characteristics that make them hazardous chemicals. Some chemicals aren't hazardous when you use them correctly, but might be a problem when you store them or ship them. These are called Other Regulated Materials, or ORMD for short. Every hazardous chemical product in the workplace has a safety data sheet, or SDS. The SDS tells you all about a hazardous chemical. Chemicals can have two kinds of hazards, either physical hazards or health hazards. Some have both physical and health hazards. Chemicals that have a physical hazard explode or catch fire easily. Chemicals that have health hazards can injure people or make them sick. Chemicals come in three forms: solid, liquid, and gas. Some chemicals are in only one of the forms, but others can change forms under certain conditions, like when you heat them up. And some liquid chemicals give off vapors. These are very small particles of the chemical that get in the air. Hazardous chemicals can get into a person's body in four ways: breathing them, getting them on your skin, getting them in your eyes, or swallowing them. How harmful a hazardous chemical is depends on how much you're exposed to it. This is called exposure. OSHA has decided that chemicals with certain characteristics should be considered hazardous. Another government agency, the Department of Transportation, has labeled each type of hazardous chemical by class to help identify the problems associated with these chemicals. Some of the products we sell are defined as hazardous. Let's take a closer look at some of those different classes of hazardous chemicals. We don't sell any explosives. Flammable liquids that give off vapors and catch fire easily? We do sell some flammable liquids. Some examples are Salon Care Hairspray, Kenra Capture Plus, and Beauty Secrets Acetone Polish Remover. Flammable solids that can catch fire. We don't sell any flammable solids. Corrosive liquids or solids that cause irreversible damage to human skin if they come in contact with the skin. We do sell some corrosive liquids and solids. And some examples are Motion's Hair Relaxer, Affirm Cream Relaxer, and TCB Relaxer. There are some products that are usually not hazardous during normal use, but might become hazardous during shipping and storing. These are called Other Regulated Material Domestic, or ORMD. We do sell some of these. For example, a bottle of Miss Clairol hair color sitting on a shelf is totally harmless, but when it's shipped, the container could break, and that might be a problem. Some other examples of ORMD products are Matrix Essentials Freeze Spray and Nail Savvy Nail Polish. Now that you know more about what hazardous chemicals are in general, sometimes you're going to need to know more about a particular hazardous material. Our company keeps information about every product that contains a hazardous chemical as an ingredient, and you can look at this information. It's written down on a document called a Safety Data Sheet, or SDS. The SDS tells you everything you need to know about a hazardous chemical, what you should be careful about, and first aid tips if something happens. Let's take a closer look at an SDS. Each SDS contains 16 uniform sections aimed at use in the workplace. The first section is Identification Information. This section lists the GHS product identifier and the name and address of the manufacturer. It may also list an emergency phone number. The Hazard Identification. This section describes the hazards of the substance or mixture and appropriate warning information such as signal words, hazard statements, and may include pictograms. The next section on the SDS is Composition/Information on Ingredients. This section identifies impurities and stabilizing additives which are themselves classified and which contribute to the classification of the substance. Section 4, First Aid. This is the go-to section when an exposure is suspected. All medical information and immediate and delayed symptoms are listed here. For example, the SDS might tell you to flush the eyes with water for 15 minutes and then get medical attention, or it might say to wash the skin with soap and water. Section 5 tells us what to do in case of a fire or if a fire threatens the product. This will also tell you if toxic fumes will be produced. The next section is Section 6, Accidental Release. This gives you cleanup tips to use if the material is spilled or leaked. Section 7 provides guidance on safe handling practices that minimize the potential hazards to people, property, and the environment from the substance or mixture. This section will identify precautions that are appropriate to the intended use and unique properties of the substance or mixture. Section 8 references exposure controls and person protection. This refers to limits in the air or biological limit values. For example, the SDS might say to ventilate the area and remove sources of spark or ignition. Or it might tell you to keep the chemical away from the skin and don't breathe its vapors. This section tells you what to have nearby to clean up a spill and if you need to do something special. The remaining sections of the SDS identify the physical and chemical properties of the substances, what they may smell like, and at what temperatures they freeze or flash. What to avoid, such as heat, pressure, or vibration, and what effects medical professionals expect from exposure. The SDS even tells you the SKU numbers of all the products it covers. You can look at any SDS we have. To get a copy of an SDS for a particular product, all you need to do is call the SDS coordinator at the support center with the SKU number of the product. The SDS can be emailed to your store. If it's after hours, call technical support at the support center and provide the SKU number for the product. Of course, another way to know about a hazardous material is to look at the container label. It's our company's policy that all products that contain hazardous chemicals must be labeled with a warning, like the ones you see here. Unlike the SDS, a container label doesn't describe a chemical in detail, but it will warn you if there is an immediate physical or health hazard associated with the material. It's really important to read the information on the label of a chemical container before you open it, and never do anything to remove or cover up a container hazard warning label. Being aware of hazardous chemicals is a very important part of your job. This knowledge helps all of us maintain a safe and hazard-free workplace for everyone. Sometimes a product gets spilled or leaks in one of our stores. Because we want you to be safe on the job, it's important to know how to clean it up. Before we talk about cleanup tips, let's look at some standard safety equipment in all of our stores. Every store has a dry chemical fire extinguisher. It's your responsibility to make sure you know where the fire extinguisher is located in your store. Each store also has a sprinkler system in case of a fire. This sprinkler system meets or exceeds all local requirements for storing the kinds of products that we sell. Each store has a first aid kit for treating minor emergencies, and each store should have a bag of kitty litter on hand. Kitty litter is actually an absorbent material called vermiculite. It soaks spills and leaks right up and can then be disposed of. Now, let's talk about what to do if a product gets spilled or leaks in your store. In our example, what's been spilled is acrylic nail liquid. Before you see a spill, you might smell it, and that is sure true for this product. An unusual odor may mean a hazardous chemical, so check it out carefully. If you do have a spilled or leaking product in your store and you can't determine that it isn't hazardous, always assume it is. Acrylic nail liquid is a hazardous chemical. The first thing you should do if a hazardous product spills or leaks is warn everyone in your store where the spill or leak is. Get everyone away from the spill who doesn't need to be involved in cleaning it up, including you. Set up warning signs around the spill if you have them available. If the product is especially hazardous or the spill is a big one, it may be necessary to evacuate the store. The fumes from this product are very powerful, and if it was a big bottle that broke, the employees would need to ask customers to wait outside until the spill is cleaned up. Then contain the spill by pouring kitty litter on it. Turn the heating or air conditioning unit off to keep the fumes from going through the vents to the other tenants in your building. Call your SDS coordinator, who will tell you if you need to use anything special to clean up and dispose of the spilled materials. Unless the SDS coordinator tells you otherwise, soak up as much of the spill as you can with kitty litter. Put on some vinyl gloves and use your Wubbies or other absorbent disposable towels and a plastic trash bag to clean up the kitty litter. Don't stand right over the spill and breathe in the fumes while you're cleaning it up. Then take the plastic bag out of the store. Mop the floor thoroughly with soap and water to get any remaining chemicals cleaned up. And open the doors to air the store out until the smell is gone. If you have a box fan, use it to help air out the store. Now you can let the customers back in and let the neighbor stores in your building know that the spill has been cleaned up. And then call your SDS coordinator to report the results of the cleanup. Be sure you call store maintenance so they can change the air filter in your store before you turn the heating or air conditioning unit back on, and let them know if the floor is damaged. Make sure you inform your store manager or district manager about the spill and that it has been cleaned up correctly. The chemicals in our stores are usually sealed in containers, so it's not very likely that a spill or a leak is going to happen. But if something does happen, follow these instructions and we'll all stay safe. Now that you know more about certain kinds of hazardous chemicals and ORMD materials, you need to know what the rules are about shipping these materials. Hazardous materials cannot be shipped out of the store under any circumstances, but ORMD materials can be shipped if they're shipped properly. How are you going to know the difference? Here's how. Let's say a customer places an order for Seabreeze astringent. When you enter the item to ring up the sale, the POS system displays a message that tells you the item is a hazardous material and cannot be shipped under any circumstances. The POS will not let you complete the sale of the order until you delete this SKU. However, if the product you're ringing up happens to be an ORMD, like this Miss Clairol hair color, the message will tell you that it is an ORMD product and can't be shipped in any way that might end up on an airplane. It'll tell you that you can ship it on the ground, but only if you put an ORMD sticker on the outside of the carton. What this means is the products can be shipped by UPS ground only. After you finish ringing up the order, find a box to ship it in. Be sure you find a box that doesn't have anyone else's hazardous markings on the outside. Pack the ORMD materials and the other products you need to ship in the box with enough packing material to protect them. Then seal the box and put an ORMD sticker on the outside. It's really important to remember that even if there's even one ORMD product in an order, you have to treat the entire order like it's totally ORMD. So, put a sticker on the outside of the box and ship it UPS ground. Each store should have plenty of ORMD stickers. If you run out, they can be ordered through your store replenishment center. Okay, we know that we can't ship hazardous materials under any circumstances, but we can ship ORMD materials if we ship them by UPS with an ORMD sticker on the shipping carton. Now, let's review what else we've learned about hazardous materials. The government's Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, has set up a rule called the Hazard Communication Standard. This rule sets up specific requirements to help people who work with hazardous chemicals to work safely. How harmful a hazardous chemical is depends on how much you're exposed to it. Some products we sell are defined as hazardous. The hazardous products we sell fall into the following classes of hazardous materials: flammable liquids, corrosive liquids or solids, and ORMD products. But we do not sell any products in the other classes, including explosives or radioactive materials. The document that gives you the most complete information about a hazardous chemical is called an SDS. You can look at an SDS. To see one, contact the SDS coordinator. You'll find a lot of things on an SDS, including what hazardous ingredients are in a product and spill or leak procedures, but you won't find instructions for shipping the product. You should always read the information on a chemical container before you open it. This information is found on the container label. On a hazardous chemical container label, you will find a hazard warning, but you won't find the phone number of the SDS coordinator or all of the same information that is on the SDS sheet. A fire extinguisher is a piece of safety equipment found in every store. An unusual odor in your store might indicate a spill or leak of a hazardous chemical. If there is a product spill in your store and you can't determine if it's hazardous or not, always assume that it is. The first thing you should do in the event of a hazardous spill is warn everyone in the store. Products defined as hazardous cannot be shipped from your store at all. Our company permits ORMD products to be shipped by UPS Ground only, not by Postal Service or UPS Air. An ORMD label must be applied to every carton shipped from your store if there's even one ORMD product inside the carton. And you can get ORMD stickers from your store replenishment center. What you've learned about hazardous chemicals can help all of us be safe on the job. Let's work together to make sure we have a safe and hazard-free workplace.